To new business, and Bradley Trivers, you have
Well, thank you, Chair. And one item I wanted to bring up, it has to do with climate change adaptation and our roads. So I think most members have probably seen the heritage roads in their districts are quite susceptible to heavy rainfall and runoff. And there's been lots of work by the Department of Transportation put in things like silt traps and trying to protect any silt from running off into waterways. That quite often these heritage roads actually lead down towards waterways. Most recently, St. Patrick's Road, which is not really a heritage road, but there's the dirt section of a place they call Thrill Hill. It's this huge gully on St. Patrick's Road that's made of clay, and there were silt traps in place. And this summer, the Department of Transportation came in and basically ended up taking out all the silt traps that were there, regrading the road. It widened it a bit, changed the ditches, and they put silt traps back in. And according to one local resident who's lived there for almost 40 years, in fact, there are less silt traps now than there were before. So when I talked to Department of Transportation, they said, we're doing everything to spec, you know. Basically, this is how wide the road should be. These are the ditches. This is the number of silt traps, etc. But given the extreme weather events we're seeing due to climate change and the heavier rainfalls, it's questionable whether the current specifications for silt traps and the like are actually providing the protection needed to stop silt from getting into waterways. In this case, it's a big gully, so there's waterway at the bottom. So I'm not sure how this translates into our work plan, but I would like the committee to consider how we approach and make recommendations or get witnesses in to talk about whether recommendations are needed for updating of the specifications with the Department of Transportation when it comes into protecting waterways in particular from silt runoff from clay roads, and whether the current specs for silt traps and grading and ditches and the like are good enough given the weather events that we're seeing.
Okay, committee, you've heard something to add to our agenda. I guess from my perspective, first issue is who do you get? I mean, if the specifications are the Department of Transportation, do we look at a contrary opinion maybe through the watershed groups to sort of give some feedback on that? My other comment would be is that we do have an agenda I think we identified 3 or 4 items, so we are going to focus on that. So I, as chair, might suggest that why don't we add that to the whole multitude of other things that we have on there, unless there's something that's very pertinent, a very specific group or something that you could get some real advice from. Or another option would be to ask for the Department of Transportation to provide us with a letter identifying what the current specifications and have they changed is another option. So feedback from the committee would be appreciated. Brad?
I think those are great suggestions, Chair, and in particular asking for the current specifications and possibly add to that any planned work they have in reviewing the specifications given the province's aggressive plan to address and adapt to climate change.
Okay, would the committee agree that we'll have Alicia write up draft a letter to the Department of Transportation to request